In this part of the video, I'd normally be showing you how I lay out all the insulation and translate our template that we have to the actual insulation, cutting it out, giving us each individual piece for the van. But somehow we lost that part of the video. Okay, yesterday, last couple days have been pretty big. Got the head unit installed. That was a big deal. Got the sound deadener down and installed. We got the insulation done. So I'll give you a little brief view of it. So that panel doesn't have anything on it right now because we're doing the window there. But that's how it looks when it's on there. It's kind of dark in here, but I paused this part of the video because I wanted to talk about the insulation. We have a template that every single square of the van is measured out, and we translate that to the actual insulation and cut that out ahead of time. Applying it to the actual van, we use Super 77 on the walls and Super 90 on the ceiling, and apply a layer or two of each of those to the wall. So if the wall, we would come in and apply Super 77 to the wall and then go out of the van and apply a layer of that to the actual piece of insulation we're gonna install. Wait just a minute or two until it's tacky and then bring it into the van and attach it to whatever panel you're working on. We actually plastic off the front cab area when we do it because Super 77 does kind of get into the air and move around a little bit. Super 90 is pretty good at staying in one spot. So Super 90, applying it to the ceiling, same thing, a layer or two on the ceiling and then a layer or two on the insulation, and then come in and just push it on and hold it there for a second. Kind of dark in here, but that'll be where the fan goes. This is a key. I don't know if everyone does this, but sound deadener and insulation up here makes the world of difference. That is one giant piece of sheet metal right above your head. So that is crazy, the difference you could feel temperature wise. New head unit is in. That's just dangling right now because the headliner's not in. But kind of gives you an idea of how it looks once it's in. Acoustically, it is nuts how much difference this stuff makes. So we fill every single one of these nooks and crannies with it. So all of this is filled with it. So back door, same thing. These are for the wheel wells. We're not installing those yet because we got to do the subfloor here soon. But yeah, kind of gives you an idea. Try CarPlay. There we go. So awesome. Oh, I really like this. So much nicer than the factory one. Holy cow. All right. Success. So one tip for you, while you have these panels off, think ahead a little bit. You'll thank yourself later, but Espar is going to go under here, and this panel is off right now, so I'm going to run my wires up, and all of our electrical stuff is going to be on this side of the van this time, so passenger side. So I'm going to run all these wires now, run my conduit, and get these Espar wires ran, because all that stuff's going to go back here for the electrical connections, and then the thermostat and stuff will go up here on the wall. So get that stuff ran now. So this whole thing, this will all get hidden in this panel. Same with that ground, because all this stuff gets covered up. I like to make it look super clean. Same with over here. All the blue tapes in my notes. Just so you don't forget that, because you got to put a panel on here and then you have this big giant wire. So kind of a weird angle, but The seat is where the Espar heater is going to go. This is the passenger seat here. There's a little tiny cutout. You can kind of see where that wire is right there. It's a little tiny cutout right here for wires to go under, and then they pop under here, and then they can come up this A pillar to go all the way up. This might be the B pillar. All the way up, and then it's going to run all the way to the back of the van. Now, this is the wiring harness for the Espar. This new 2019 Espar that they put out, they did all the wiring harness ahead of time, which is actually pretty nice. Although, this will be the wiring piece that's going to go up over to our electrical connections and to the thermostat. So I need to run this up here. This connection that they have on here is too big to run through this little tiny port that Mercedes has. So I need to remove the seat. I need to lift this base up a little bit, or I could cut and resolder all these connections. On the seat, there's 4 bolts. Here, here, and then there's 2 in the back. We're going to remove them. Tip for you: if you're going to remove this seat completely and disconnect the airbag, make sure you disconnect the battery. I'm not going to. I'm just going to move it out of the way for now, so I'm not going to have to disconnect the battery. These are way lighter than the last seats.
Are they?
So you can see that tunnel that I'm going for. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen up the 2 bolts. One right there, and one right there, and hopefully that'll give me enough space to where I can get the connector through there. Okay, so I'm going to redo this because change of plans on what we're going to do here in the van. But while we have the seat off, panels off, we're going to install the Espar heater into the actual seat base here, and that way we can install the swivel and then get all these panels back on so we don't have to remove them again. But when we were doing this, we noticed the new wiring harness for the Espar S2 I think is what it's called, for the 2019 model. This is all the wiring it comes with, plus the fuel pump wiring. But the only wiring you have to worry about will be this connector, and that's for the easy start timer. That's going to go to the back by the bed. And then we have our power wires. So just 20 amp fused, 5 amp fused, and the ground. But then they have this extra wire here, and in the manual it just ends at this connection. There's a connection with a little resistor in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all these wires up this A pillar through conduit in the roof back to where my electrical connections are and to where the easy start timer is, so I can have my thermostat and timer back by the bed. But that connection is too big to run through all my conduit. So now I'm going to go through, I'm going to unwrap this whole length of wire so I can get, it still goes, it's still going. So I can get to this part, nope, that's not even up there, it keeps going. So I can get to this part down here and then just wrap up this connection and just leave it in the seat base. So this is what you're going to find in the wiring harness. So these are the power connections for the Espar D2S2. This is a 20 amp connection. This is their 5 amp connection, and then the ground. I'm going to run these to my fuse box for all my solar system. This was the big giant connector that I'm trying to get loose, and when we unwound it, this is what we're finding here. That 5 amp fuse, or that 5 amp wire, runs into a splitter, and it splits here to go into here, and there's a little tiny resistor at the end, and then the rest
goes down there. So I'm gonna wind this and wrap this underneath the seat, and then just have my connection for my power supply off of here, and that's what's gonna run through. So all I have is 3 wires running through the wall. All this will be tucked nicely underneath the seat. I want to show you these new connections that I got for wiring. Before, it would be an absolute nightmare. I'd have to pre-tin the wires, bust out my soldering iron, I guess the other way around, bust out my soldering iron, pre-tin the wires, add shrink wrap, solder the wires together, pull out the heat gun, shrink wrap it. Now, these are shrink wrap and solder in one. They have the standard sizes, red, blue, yellow, and what it is it's shrink wrap on both sides of that, but that piece in the middle is solder. So as it shrink wraps, you continue the heat on the wires, and it will actually solder your 2 wires together. So I'll show you how we do it. It is incredible. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm telling everybody about it. So first thing you're gonna do is strip both your wires, add your shrink wrap solder tube onto it, and then twist the wires together. It's a good twist around to get them connected. Slide the shrink wrap solder over the top. Center that solder right here with the wire connection, and then you're going to heat gun it. So now, once you have that connection with the solder centered over your, then you're going to heat it with a heat gun. So maybe you can see that now. It actually melted solder into the 2 wires, and every connection I've done, you can see that there. I hope it's picking up the detail for you, but you can actually see the solder melted into the wires. For a couple seconds after you're done, it'll be soft, the solder will be soft, so you can actually pull them apart. I've done that once, but once it dries, it is a solid connection. You can actually see it solidifying right now. I love these things. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Go tell your grandmas about this. I'm gonna install the Espar heater into the seat base now on the passenger side of the van. It's pretty much where everyone installs them. This is where we've installed them in the last 3 vans. I'm not gonna go into too much detail on how to install an Espar heater. Our friend Our Caravan does a really good video. I'll link it to either up top or in the description for you. So I've already drilled the holes into the floor. So there's an exhaust hole, an air inlet hole, the fuel line hole, and then the 4 holes for where the screws are going to go. And then I've already painted that, let that dried, so that way I can install this now, get everything done underneath the seat base that I have to, and then we're going to install a seat swivel. And then we've also got the hole for the air outlet for the Espar, so I'll get to that. That just goes down just simple as that. I'm going to go underneath it and put lock washers and the nuts provided on the bottom to hold that. Then we're going to connect up our wiring harness, which is here. So everything will be connected underneath the seat. Then we're going to run fuel line. I saw this tip. I'll have to link their video as well. But normally I've always ran the fuel line down underneath the van, same wiring as I would the fuel pump wires. The same route I'd run the fuel line. But somebody had a great tip: run it underneath the base through the track system. So you can look at this track that Mercedes has, and then through the outlet that's at the bottom of that seat. There's a really good, easy to use outlet for wires. So I'm actually going to do that. That's a great tip. Keeps it away from all the hot stuff down below the van. So I'll do that real fast and we'll keep moving. This is new for the 2019 model. there is a jack in there. So be in mind that, be cognizant of that reference. Your Espar coming out for that. That's different in the 2019 model. So now I'm going to run fish tape from the driver's side over here, grab the fuel pump wires and run that through the electronics track. I took the cover off of underneath the seat. There's like a foam cover that I take off. So there's a track here in the middle where all the electronics get ran up to the dash, over to the passenger seat, to the driver's seat. So popped it off with some pliers. I did a big video on the stereo install. I'll link that. That shows how to take that whole thing off. But be careful when you use a metal wire tape under here. There's a lot of electronics under here, so just be very careful down here. So I'm just gonna fish the fish tape. So these are the two wires for the Espar fuel pump. Yeah. These hookers. No, I didn't even need the fish tape. Oh, hello. Drink. Okay, now I'm going to wrap all this back up and I'll store it underneath the driver's seat for now until we get back to the Espar installation. Cut this hole out for the Espar vent. This is the diameter you're cutting for, not this inner one. Just ask me how I know.
You should do a close-up on that so they can see which one you're talking about.
So
Which one? Okay.
there's two different diameters, this inner one and then this bigger one. You're looking for the bigger one because you want this edge right here to be flush against the metal because your screws are going to go through there.
So, not this one, this one.
Yeah. And not this one. It's a nice fit. That's the adjustable vent that you can turn and direct the heat. Once you get this piece installed, you can just snap it on there. And now we have an adjustable heat vent direction thing. Espar includes hose clamp for this end of it, which I find kind of weird. They don't have a hose clamp for that end. It's like kind of a edged piece, so it kind of goes on and locks itself on. But I'm going to tighten that one down, route that to there, and the Espar for this portion of it is completely installed. And then we'll install sweet swivel, the seat swivel.
Everybody
next.
loves the sweet swivel.
The old sweet swivel. All right. Okay. Another tip for you: these I don't have to loosen the base at all. They're lining up pretty good, but don't tighten these down until you get them all actually started. That's been an issue in the past with some of these seat swivels as well. Seat's so much lighter.
I would have included more information on this seat swivel because we really liked it at first, but our seat swivel is actually faulty from whatever factory that made it. So I had to actually send that one back and get a different seat swivel, one that we've actually used in the past.
Okay. So the factory little foam thing that goes underneath the seat, the airbag sensor comes through this hole right here. God, that's annoying. Comes through this hole right there, but I cut a different hole because when it was on that top corner as the seat would swivel, it was getting pinched. Because the airbag sensor comes through the center of the seat swivel, add a hole to the center of this. So we have the airbag sensor underneath the seat. You can see that bar right there. I zip tied the wire to that bar because I found it moving around a lot when it swiveled around. Now that is taking the pressure off of that. So hopefully that will do it.
After I did this, Mercedes actually came out with a recall doing the exact same thing, so it was definitely an issue.
Pop up, in the front up. Well, that wasn't very fun. Keep everything in bolts, or all your nuts and bolts inside of a bag. You'll thank yourself later.
Well, a lot has happened since the recording of all of this. Christina and I have actually opened our own shop called Rome Overland Vehicles, where we build vans and other overlanding vehicles. If you want, follow us along on our Instagram for more up-to-date information, Weekends We Roam, or Rome Overland Vehicles.